split. See, with the threat from DRS on the western front as well, it is going to be very, very tricky. You're talking about how that warehouse with the open sides can be spotted through. You've got FaZe who are going to be looking that direction, DRS as well, going to be putting pressure on that west edge. And when Yokohama Donuts Varel or Gladiators move up that eastern side, it is again under threat. So difficult to hold, not only from the Vampires, but from everywhere else.
Yeah, it's a bit of a struggle. And I think Vampires are doing a good job to hold for the time being. Instantly, Gladiators send out. You can see here, Infinity IQ have a good idea of what's going on. As Matic drops out the vehicle, does reveal the position, so Gladiators have a little bit of a better idea of what's going on there. But there is clapback coming their way. 7 eliminations for Infinity IQ, but Gladiators not willing to give up just yet.
DRS moving along their position, but FaZe have looked to try and challenge them for it. 3 players alive for FaZe, 4 for DRS. Nobody really can move up into this position, so it is a straight 4v3 between these two rosters. And DRS do have the high ground here. Venturez wants to try and force them up towards it, but it'll be pretty tricky. Yeah, Venturez goes down, Killer just runs him over in that close range position. Finally, Yangon Galacticos go down back towards that military bases, but the Gladiators are finding their way out. No meds on board for the Infinity, and the nades are going to be able to close it down. Another rundown for Delta to flush Vintoris in the meantime. Means that that high ground for DRS is looking all the more safe.
I mean, it was poetic justice there for Gladiators that Infinity IQ would go down to nades, right? They have been causing absolute pandemonium with the nades of their own. The Gladiators just give them a tiny taste of their own medicine at the end of the day. I don't like that you said finally Yangon Galacticus went down. You sounded relieved.
Well, they had been hiding.
Stop that.
They had been hiding around Gladiators for a long time. So I was saying finally, not in a relief sense, but finally. No, it was a relief sense. You're right. You're right. No, you're right. I don't know why I'm lying to you.
It's okay, bro. It's okay. I get it. I get it. IA still in a fairly decent spot for themselves. I think the fact that they've been able to hold on for so long, they are really keeping this one as safe as possible. They are helped out by the fact that there is Vampire Esports up with 4, Sem9 with 4, DRS up with 4, which is sort of making this push down towards IA, meaning if you want to fight us in the compound, you have to fight everyone else also looking at our compound. So, you know, you can come get it, but it's going to be difficult.
That sounded like the start of that sounded like the Spice Girls lyrics. If you want to take my compound.
Yeah, if you want to take my compound.
You got to cover all the angles.
You got to get with my enemies.
Gladiators nade over the top, over towards Yokohama. And another one to follow it up. Meku with the side swipe cover as well as missile falls. Perfect bombardment from Gladiators. Kitsune looking to deal the final blow, but goes right on over the top. Now also holding behind the artillery. Well, there's plenty more where that came from Gladiators. Perfect hold, perfect push. They're up the top of the hill now. The Gladiators with 3 will look to descend towards Aegon XIA.
DRS do spot out the way though, and I think Gladiators are currently in the worst position so far. I8 opt to go for that rotation over towards the other side. I think Vampire spot that one happening, and at this late in the game, that move can only be a regroup. Great shots coming through from Sem9 though. UZM is going to struggle to get out that actual building. The ghillie suit doesn't help him. In an urban area, it kind of makes you easier to see.
It's just the vibes of the ghillie suit, you know?
That is true. You are comfort, you are warm. Which is definitely what Vampire are feeling right now. They are heated up.
Absolutely. We said as well that DRS on these military circle shifts had shown strength back in the scrims, and they seem to have been able to navigate the ground very well as, again, playing on that western side now. 3 eliminations, so not the most in the lobby, but they are a massive force here. The question is, when they have to descend, will they be able to find a foothold at the bottom?
Yeah, DRS have never really been this team that gets a huge amount of eliminations, save a couple of games. But what they are is always in these end games. They're very good at isolating teams, isolating some of these rotational paths to get in. It is fantastic overall. Gladiators though rocking up, and it's Sem9 to catch them in the way. But Matic going for the classic, looks to hit these shots up towards the top side. And already DRS are also getting involved, and that's it. Gladiators go down in 4th.
SCM 2 players alive now. This is the chance. I mean, Vampires have moved up from that south side with Aegon XIA out the way. They are now the main threat in this lobby to take a back-to-back blank. On the south side of this, Vampire are going for a split.
This is interesting. Vampire head out towards that eastern side, maybe to pick up some loot that they picked off. Tony K and Schweppes making this long rotate. They come on back. They get a little bit of information, kind of keep DRS in towards that pinch between them and Sem9. Giante's off towards the western side all by himself. So that could be an interesting off angle.
The res not quite in position for Depp on SEM9 right now, but they've got a little bit of time on that bleed out. They should be able to stay safe. Fortunately, Tam eats a bit of damage from a nade. That'll give a position away, make it harder to stay alive here. The res now being enacted, but they've still got that time to play with. Vampire, in the meantime, happy to let these two teams fight it down.
Killer just spotting as best he can. An interesting position to finish in, and look at that. Circle heads down towards the southwest. Giante is in a good spot for the rest of the team to regroup on top of. They could easily do this and leave Sem9 to their own antics, in which case they're most likely going to be taken down by Vampire, who currently have such an incredible spot within the circle. They took their time making into this one, usually dropping in Primor, so it's pretty reasonable for them to find a place like this. But equally, it was as reasonable for Gladiators to take up a position like this as well. I'd be very curious to know why Gladiators went for the decisions that they made during this game.
Either way, it's panning out for them. 6 eliminations for Kenny on SEM9. This Malaysian team is doing work right now on this military island finish. Guaranteed chunk of points as well for these placements. It's good news for Malaysian fans.
I think that this game is going to conclude soon, though, John. With the way the circle's set up, it's just about in terms of these high grounds, in terms of these hillsides. You can just peek over the top, but as we push further in now on this blue, it's going to force both these teams to peek their heads over the top side. Now, Vampire is going to have to be stalwart if they want to hold on to this position, John. They're going to have to fight off against two teams at once and be very quick on the trigger, because DRS, as soon as they hear those shots up towards Sem9, they might go for something. But already, Schweppes comes out with a killer move.
Stones does get answered towards as Kenny does find that knock, but the needles are being threaded time and time again by the Vampire squad, and DRS have not opted to pull that trigger. Move on in for this third party. Rules is there to put pressure from the north, sure, but DRS biding their time.
Rules moves up. Kenny's still tossing these grenades over the top, and he's actually struggling to get into position. In the meantime, he's going to have to tip-tap his way away from this spot. The nades are causing massive issues. Finally, Kenny's out. Buggy taking a little bit of damage, smoking, actually. I believe from this one.
Regroup back towards the rest of DRS. But the downhill run towards Vampire is now the next move they have to make. There is no real choice. They have to figure out how they want to enact that one, as rules will break down to that closer position on the next circle. Vampire, though, looking solid. 8 eliminations so far this game. Coming off the back of the first chicken dinner with 7 eliminations. They want to one-up that one, or potentially even more. There's still plenty more to play.
A back-to-back at the start of PMWI. I don't know what it is about this tournament, but it gets the blood flowing for Vampires, I'll tell you that now. DRS up towards that top side. They do take a knock from Schweppes, who's been fantastic this game. Kenny looking for a little bit more. Giante has played a beautiful game this match. Being able to stay on his lone side to force Sem9 into a horrible position versus Vampire so they can try and capitalize off the third party. Very strong. But it looks like now Tam and Kenny will just go for the denial of these points, leaving it just between DRS and Vampire.
And it is a full 4 versus 4. DRS have had a lot more damage poured their way. The question is, how much ammo do Vampire have at this stage? They should have been able to resupply on Aegon XI8. Hopefully they've got enough in the back pocket. Ravenclaw, yeah, they've got seemingly plenty to be getting on with the DBS to hold off close range. As long as their armor holds out, they should have a good advantage here. A Grozer as well for Tony. He moves up, and the Vampires want to strangle this one out now.
This is good from the Vampires, and they do it quite frequently. They're Don't allow teams time to set up, time to get into a good position, because right now that's all DRS are doing. So they send Schweppes and Tony K up, stoned Ravenclaw in the back, stoned there with the Mini 14, great at long range already. Yante's taking a huge amount of damage. Schweppes finds another, Rules is out inside the smoke. Schweppes has to run away. Will he survive this? Yes, for a little bit longer.
Dips back behind the smoke, and the cover is there from his team as well to keep him safe. Rules is still close, and a danger, a threat with the nade in hand as well. Pin is pulled, wants to lob it on through, do damage, but it's not finding the mark. Rules still yet to let loose here. Wants to try and move closer to the tree now. Stoned takes a tickle. Delta launching ordnance from up the hill, but Vampire have the center of the circle. Nades from the back. Ravenclaw on the rooftop. It is so difficult to dethrone him, but Tony K goes down first here. DRS now have an opening with 4 players alive for them. The res is super unlikely for Vampire. Can they hold on to the center? Because the blue zone pushes DRS in and Rules goes down. An excellent answer from Ravenclaw. Gianti crawling into position, but the blue will push him further. And into the tree he falls. Rules just about getting tagged up for the res.
Tony K has to get up. This Groza has to find purchase here because a lot of these players on Vampire's side are running out of bullets. Tony K comes up short as he heads down towards that top side of the hill. A lot of damage coming through, and Vampire might just have thrown away. They're back-to-back as Stone is desperately hanging on. A Molotov behind the tree burns away the bark.
There
but
it
that might be it. Well done, Vampire. The second chicken dinner coming through from not an easy position, but the fact that they come out, they delay until the circle pushes in, forces DRS into such an awkward spot.
What a way for Vampires to close down the second of their back-to-back chicken dinners, the second of the games at the All-Star stage. This is a team ready and raring to go. We were talking about who's done their homework. It is clear that Vampire have been at the drawing board and they have struck masterful resource and revision to bring in here. An elation in the Vampire camp, rightly so.
I love that. They started the game with a toast, they end the game with a toast there, and that's how you get yourself a toast sandwich, John. The double toaster.
Something like that,
Something
I'm
like
sure.
That.
But
of
either
course.
way, we're going to be heading back over to the desk to break down Vampire's dominance very soon after this short break.
To the heart.